And we're live.
This is going to be quite a night. This is really going to be something. I'm sure all of you watch every Friday night live as it happens, so you know that this is the moment where we vamp and wait for people to come on. And
Vamp is where we go.
Yeah, this is where you stretch. Vamp is a theater term.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, as you know, as you well know.
As you know from your theater
As you know from your days in musical theater.
Was it dinner
I was
theater?
a thespian.
Was it dinner theater you did, or was
Yes,
it? Yeah,
dinner
I thought so.
I
And we've got a
played
bunch of
mostly
people on.
pirate roles.
We have a bunch of people on now. Yeah. I think I would imagine. Hey, everybody. So thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Johnny. I'm a grateful believer. I struggle with alcoholism and codependency. I've got a whole group with me tonight. So why don't you introduce yourselves?
Grateful believer in Jesus Christ, struggle with drugs and alcohol, food issues. My name is Rodney.
I'm a grateful believer in Jesus, and I struggle with relationship addiction. My name is Carol.
Hi, I'm a believer who struggles with codependency and adult child family dysfunction. My name is Jeni.
Hi, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ who struggles with codependency. My name's Mary.
And I am a believer in Jesus Christ named Rodney. And I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, struggle with drugs and alcohol. My name's Mac.
Hey, man.
So we have a whole crew of people. That was really hard not to say hi to all of you.
I slipped once.
It really was hard.
to you, Jenny. I'm
I know,
sorry.
I liked that it was to me though.
Yeah.
I felt special.
I feel so special.
If we get any questions answered tonight,
It's going to be a
it's going to be
miracle.
a miracle. And on the other side of the camera, as always, we have Marnie. Say hi, Marnie.
Hey,
Hi,
Mary.
Marnie.
Well, actually, what I wanted was Marnie to say hi.
Oh,
We're rookies.
Yeah. It's okay. Like I said, I'm sure you watch every week.
you say we're Wookiees?
Oh, rookies.
Yeah, Star Wars.
I think Mac and I should have switched sides because I think I just realized we're on. It doesn't matter. We are happy to be together. We're happy to be together tonight. We've had a couple of days where we've actually started talking about 2020. Gosh, summits.
I know, it's crazy.
Yes.
So we are really excited about that. We've been planning workshops. We've been planning the main sessions. We've been talking about dates, all kinds of stuff. For those of you who don't know what a summit is, Rodney, why don't you let everybody know what a summit
Yeah,
is?
Summit is just like, for lack of a better term, it's a big, humongous recovery party, family reunion where we bring people from all over the nation together. 2 different summits, one in Tennessee and one in California. We have worship, celebration, but we do some great inspirational talks, trainings, really equipping, encouraging, connection. It's just, there's so much. If you've never been to a summit, you got to get to a summit. It's amazing.
You know, Rodney, what you said too, people from all over the nation, which is true.
The world,
But really,
too.
people from all over the world. I mean, we just got back from Brazil. Did a conference there with over 1,200 people in Brazil. We're at that conference. So there'll be people coming from that conference to the summit too.
Awesome.
And right now, joining us on Facebook Live, we've got a group from Venezuela who's on.
Sweet.
Oh,
That's really
cool.
cool.
Hi.
Yeah, so that's neat. So, so Celebrate Recovery is in 35,000 churches all over the world in lots of different languages. And so the summits are kind of our parties where we all get together. We do training, we do inspiration, we do worship together, all different kinds of things. And we spent the last few days kind of locked in a room talking about it. So it's pretty exciting. So as you're coming on, if you have questions, make sure you leave them in the comments and Marnie will go through those and we'll try to answer as many as we can in our time together tonight. And tonight we have a special thing happening at our Lake Forest Celebrate Recovery. We have a Christmas tree lighting, and then Mac and Mary, you're going to be sharing your testimony.
Yes.
Yeah, we're excited
I'm so
about that.
excited about the Christmas tree lighting.
Yeah, it's fun because I think what we really like about it is that we don't stop what we're doing for Celebrate Recovery, but the Christmas tree lighting is starting at 7, so we're all going to go join that, be a part of that celebration, and then just start a little bit later inside the worship center for Celebrate Recovery. And it actually gives us an opportunity to invite the people who are going to be just showing up for hot chocolate and some Christmas carols and say, hey, why don't you come inside? And so it's going to be a good time.
Hey, you're talking about the summit too. We have dates. Mary, you got the dates?
The dates are July 15th through 17th. Is that right? For
That's
the
for Tennessee.
Summit? And then the West Summit is August 5th through the 7th.
Yeah, so we would love for you if you go to celebraterecovery.com. You can't sign up for it yet, but that will be open soon. There are a couple of 1 days, or at least 2 1 days, that you can sign up for now. And so you go to celebraterecovery.com, click on events, and you can register for those 1 days. 1 days is basically what we do at the summit over 3 days. We just condense it to 2 different tracks, the 7 keys of Celebrate Recovery, and then the advanced leadership training track. So we go all over the country doing those. And like Mac was saying, they did a an event in Brazil this year. So it's pretty exciting. It's good stuff. Marnie, you got any questions yet? Is anybody?
How do you guys get anything done?
That's a great.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
We do have fun together.
Yes.
don't we?
We get things done because of Marnie, who's behind the camera, and then these three ladies and a couple other people who are really good at keeping us on track. Because if it was Mac, Rodney, Pastor John, and I, we would never get anything done. We would just
We'd have a lot of fun though.
we'd eat, but that's
And
about,
we'd eat.
yeah. But we have a great time, and it really is. It's a really focused time where we spend. We spent about 3 days really together planning this stuff, and coming up with stuff that we think is going to be great for this summit. So we're really excited about it. And just like I said, if you haven't asked a question, if you've got any questions for any of us, leave it in the comments, and we'll get to as many of those as we can. And has anybody else asked a question, or should I make Jeni say something?
Well, I just wanted to mention too that in addition to Venezuela, that Philippines and Africa are on, Kenya. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, and something we like too is if you want to let us know where you're from, it's just kind of cool to see where everybody's joining us as we do this too. But we really need your questions because right now we're just kind of like,
Yeah, I think
Well,
one thing. Oh, go ahead.
No, go.
I was going to say one thing that we're going to be releasing little tidbits of things of the all new summit, and as we were looking at the whiteboard today, I was just like, man, I'm so stoked. But one of the things I'm real excited about is we've got an even greater focus towards the senior pastor and trying to equip them, help them understand how to help people with hurts, habits, and hangups in their church. How do we help pastors with compassion fatigue? And so a lot of different things that we're going to be doing that are specifically focused for the pastor. And so that's one of the tracks that we're going to be doing. We'll be talking about more stuff that we're going to be doing, but that was pretty excited about that.
yeah, I saw somebody did ask about new trainings at the summit, and I think there's a couple other things that I'm excited about. We're talking about having some stuff that would be geared towards what the effects of pornography are in personal lives and in families and in marriages, and then just some other issues around that as well. So it's going to be really exciting stuff this year that we're gonna we're doing. Everything's new. The main session talks are all new. Lots of the workshops are new. Of course, we're still going to have some of our standard things where we help people learn how to go through a 4-step inventory and step study, open share, and all that kind of stuff, the components of Celebrate Recovery, but a lot of new stuff as well. So
And when you're talking about the effects of pornography, that's one of those issues that most churches don't want to tackle. And even sometimes in Celebrate Recovery, we sort of shy away from that. But we're going to have main stage talks on the effects of pornography and several workshops on it too. So we're going to tackle it head on. And so you can be equipped to go back to your Celebrate Recoveries and really work on that.
Yeah. Okay, we got some questions,
We
Mark?
do. So Lori from Hawaii is asking, how do I approach someone who refuses to write out their answers in their step study book? Or when they do answer, they totally go off topic. It's hard to keep them on topic.
That's a great question. Well, Jeni, you haven't said anything. I want to hear from you.
She's going to get you later.
Oh, that's
Jeni, please.
You will pay for that later, my
You
friend.
know, listen, we have our national training coach, Mary Montague.
I have one thing I can say.
See, this is the thing. I knew it was gonna happen.
You know
I'm gonna have a
well.
lot to say.
Yeah.
She wanted to know how she could approach someone who is not answering their questions,
Who's not writing
ahead
it
of
down in
time, right?
advance.
Not writing their answers down. And then goes off topic. I would my first recommendation would be to approach them in person, off to the side, either before a step study or after a step study. Just talk to them about it. Maybe give them some reasons why we recommend writing their answers down in the book. One of them is that they can stay on topic when they're answering the question, when they're sharing during their time. What else would you say?
Well, that's exactly it, because we always want to encourage publicly, but talk to someone for correction privately. So that's exactly what to do.
Yeah, and I would say it's not. There really isn't anything saying they have to write their answers down.
Correct. Yes.
You know, I have heard from groups from time to time and go, well, if they don't write their answers down, we don't let them share. I think you want to be careful with things like that because it can get really legalistic. And so we encourage people to write things down, just like we encourage them to read their answers. And what I would say is, hey, you're going to get as much out of this as you put into it. The more you get out of it, the more time you put into it, the more you're gonna get out of this. And
we've talked with Mac one time about some people like to bullet journal. They don't write out their full answer. Sometimes they write down a word, and that's enough for them, to think. There's just not a lot of space in the workbook sometimes to write down your whole answer word for word. So bullet journaling, any kind of.
That's a great time for just a conversation with somebody and ask them if they think they're ready for step study right now. Because if they're not ready for that commitment, and I'm not saying tell them don't come back, but they may make the decision and I'm just not ready right now. And
finding out the why of it, if you just talk to them about it and they tell you why, there might be some kind of struggle that they just need to talk about, and maybe they're afraid.
Yeah, we need to be not so quick to just write people off.
Yeah, but to your point, Mac, sometimes I think we rush people into step study too quickly.
Yes.
And that could be a reason. Somebody could be in a step study really before they want to be.
How many times have you heard the real healing begins when you get in a step study, and that sort of discounts a large group, it discounts open share group, and that's where I really grew a lot before I was ready to go through the steps.
But we were so excited about step study, we're just thinking, they need it so bad,
right?
But they might not be ready.
Yep. What do you think, Rodney?
Yeah, one of the things that we do in the early on, that first meeting when we're kind of what brought you here, that's kind of that first week deal, is I'll ask them, and we train our leaders is to ask them, what's your level of motivation for change, 1 to 10, and tell us why, and so we'll talk about that, and we'll go around, and then we say, okay, let me tell you what that means to be motivated. And so we talk about doing homework, we talk about showing up to step study, we talk about going to general meeting night, we talk about getting a sponsor. So we just talk about all the things that means if I'm motivated for change, these are the things that I want to be doing. And so if you want to have that change that you're motivated for, then these are the things. And then we bring that back when we're going into book 2. We come back to that and say, several weeks ago you said your number was here. Where are you now and why? And it's a good way to kind of breathe oxygen going into that book 2. It's like, okay, I'm still motivated. Let's go.
I love that because too in Pastor John's books, Life-Healing Choices, there's the pattern, the predictable pattern of relapse, and one of the parts is becoming comfortable.
Yeah.
And if you get into recovery, about the time if you start right away, you get into a step study right away, you're highly motivated.
Yeah.
You get into a step study, by the time it's been a couple of months, you're feeling
better.
a little bit more comfortable, and man, it doesn't feel like, was it really as bad as it was? Because this feels, I'm okay here. I mean, I'm not where I want to be yet, but it's better than it was. I can kind of hang out here for a little while. And so giving people, again, that reminder and asking them to check in can be a really powerful thing.
Yeah, because that's the very time where I tell myself, it really wasn't that bad, was it?
Right.
But that's when you need to ask people around you.
Right. Yeah.
They'll remind you.
Right.
They'll remind you.
What else, Marty? Do we have anything else?
So a couple of summit questions. Do you have a theme that you want to disclose yet?
Great question.
I think we might want to sit on that a little bit. We might want to sit on that. Have John and Cheryl on here before we give that away.
It's going to be a surprise.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Janice is asking, is there anything on the docket for the summits on how to become a sponsor?
It's a great question. Carol, what do you think?
So typically one of those workshops that we kind of keep in our rotation because it's such an important part of the recovery process is a workshop on sponsors and accountability partners, and it's always just really great and informative. So that's a great place to get some of that really specific training for that.
Yeah, we do that every time, and it really is an important part of it. So, great. What else, Mark?
How do you guys share with somebody who is tentative about going to Celebrate Recovery for the first time?
That's a great question. I think that happens to all of us, right? We love what Celebrate Recovery's done for us. We start talking to somebody, and we know that it'd be good for them, but it can be hard to broach that subject, or we've kind of maybe even said it a few times, like, well, I'm not really sure. How do you guys, what's some input do y'all have about that?
Yeah, for me, if I feel like somebody's overselling something to me, then I'm automatically going, wait a minute, you're trying to sell me something that's probably not as good as you're saying it is. So I think I just kind of share my own story, and if they hear that hope in me, and it's almost kind of a one down, it's like, you know what, it may not be for you. There's tons of things out there, but let me just tell you what it's done for me, and it's been amazing, and I'd encourage you to give it a few tries before you make up your mind. And if it doesn't work out, go try something else. But as long as you're experiencing the life change you're looking for, then that's great. But so just using my own life story and kind of pointing out the elephant in the room. It's going to feel weird. Anything new is weird. What I've experienced is, though it was weird, keep coming back, and I started. Hey, I kind of like seeing these people.
Yeah.
I love coming back here, and I can have a real crazy week, and I can walk through the doors to Celebrate Recovery. It's like, man, this is a really cool place to be, and I can see myself changing, and that inspires that hope and encourage you to keep coming back. So that's a couple things.
You know, when you're talking about not overselling, what I like about that is in the guidelines it talks about when we're in our small groups we use I and me statements. But if you would, for me, using I and me statements is great for conversation with people too, because I'm going to do just that. Because most of the time when we're talking to somebody that we know needs Celebrate Recovery, it's because a overzealous family member got them. If I just get them to Rodney, I know Rodney will get them in there, and they want us to tell them, you've got a problem and you need to be here. But when I start with, when I came here, I really was struggling too, and I really didn't like coming here, and we start using those I and me statements, then all of a sudden that puts them at ease instead of on the defensive.
Right.
Jeni, what about, I know you've invited a few friends to come to Celebrate Recovery in the past. How's that?
Yeah.
What are some things that you've done in that?
Similar to what Rodney's saying, I tell like what healing I have found and how the program has helped me, and a little bit about my story, and then I'll offer, hey, I'm there. I can go with you to the large group. I tell them about Newcomers 101. I want to be careful that they don't become dependent on me going to go, but I do offer to go the first time, and then just talk with them after. Okay, what did you think? And I like what you say about, hey, it might be uncomfortable. Here's some things you might not be expecting. When they introduce themselves, the whole crowd will say, hi, so and so.
Right.
There's some language or verbiage they might not be familiar with that seems kind of odd, but just talking about that I think is smart. And then afterwards, like, hey, how did that feel?
Right.
Are you willing? Would you want to go again? And like, if they don't want to go, okay, no problem. Let me know if you ever want to go again.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And if they show up, I love to just make sure they're never alone, to welcome them when they come in the door, introduce them to other people.
Yeah.
They see all these happy people, and just they feel, wow, this is a nice place. It's a warm place.
I'll never forget there's a guy that comes back, has been coming to our Celebrate Recovery about 4 years now, and every time he gets in a new group, he says, when I got here, I could not figure out why Mac was smiling so much. It was almost irritating, but he said, the next week I got a little better. He said, after a month, I got it why he was smiling.
Yeah, it is called Celebrate Recovery,
Right.
So it's something. And one thing I'd suggest too, if you're a leader at Celebrate Recovery, if you're a ministry leader or a pastor who oversees the program, factor in some special nights. So not that you have to go away from the DNA of Celebrate Recovery where you do a lesson or the testimony, but figure out some special things that you can do that would attract newcomers, that actually make it easier to invite your friends. So something like tonight with the Christmas tree lighting, it's really easy to say, hey, we're going to do this Christmas tree lighting, and afterwards just come on in and check, because there's going to be all kinds of new people tonight. Or we're doing something that I've been trying to get here at Saddleback for years, Chip Night. And
where's me?
And so we're handing out our recovery chips tonight during the main session. And the joke behind that is, I've always thought that it should happen in small group, not in large group, and we're doing it in large group, and it's awesome. I love it. So, but the reason why that's a night to have, we do it the first Friday of every month. The reason why it's so great is that you can say to somebody, hey, I'm getting a recovery chip tonight. I'm getting my 30, 60, 90 days or a year or increment of that. Come celebrate with me. And it's not even saying to them, you should go to Celebrate Recovery. It's like, I'm getting this marker of my commitment. Come hear this. We have a testimony always that night that we do Chip Night, so they hear the story of a changed life. So having something that you can say, hey, this is a really good way to invite your friends, family, co-workers, people that you know to come to Celebrate Recovery. Because I always hesitate when I want to invite somebody to Celebrate Recovery, because I'm afraid it's going to come off as like, hey, you're screwed up. You should go to this thing, right? So even though I'm there, and so just that could be some touchy points. So great question. I think if we all keep doing this, we're going to have time for one more question if we all keep answering. So let's see what else we got out there, Marnie.
Okay, it's been asked a couple of times this evening by several different people. Would you ever consider a video conferencing system for sponsors to utilize, especially when folks can't find a sponsor at their Celebrate Recovery group?
I'll handle this one. No, we won't. So everything in Celebrate Recovery, when it comes to we want it to happen in person. We have a world that is becoming more and more separated due to things like social media. Now, this is awesome, right? Because we're together with lots of people who are watching this live, but we're not sitting down with you. We're having communication through another thing. And so it's not the same as me sitting down over coffee with an accountability partner or on the phone with somebody when something happens. And then there's a second part of that, and that's the safety component. So right now you can see all of us, but you can't see Marnie. And so somebody could be on the other side of that camera hearing everything that's being shared, and the person on the other device wouldn't know that's happening. So I understand the desire for that. It seems like a great idea, but there are no online meetings for Celebrate Recovery. We do face-to-face meetings only. So now, let's say that somebody's attending a Celebrate Recovery and they're having a hard time finding a sponsor. Instead of just saying, no, you can't do video conferencing, what are some tips we can give to people who might be at a Celebrate Recovery who are having a hard time connecting?
Finding a sponsor.
Yeah, finding a sponsor.
Yeah. So I think when we were young as a Celebrate Recovery, we just encourage them, some folks have mentors already in their church that are godly men and women. Make them your sponsor. I mean, they're not going to understand completely the recovery language, but I would say make sure you have someone that knows Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. But
we also suggest same gender as yourself.
Oh, yeah. Same gender, but yeah. So you're finding those people. So there was a time too when we had our first early step studies that in the gender specific groups where they would become each other's accountability partner until we got to that level where we maybe not call each other sponsor, sponsoree, but we're at least accountability, and you grow into that with a mentor in the church. So
yeah,
I love that.
That's what you have to do in the
Yeah.
beginning, because nobody
Absolutely.
has a sponsor at the beginning.
Yeah, and one thing I would suggest too is if you're a ministry leader of a Celebrate Recovery, don't try to govern who can and can't be sponsors.
That'll drive you
So,
crazy.
right, if you're trying to say only leaders can be sponsors, or even only people who've
burn
completed
'em
this
out.
or done that, Mac, you've been in Celebrate Recovery for a long time, but you've been in recovery longer than that even, and your sponsor.
My sponsor I got from AA because I've been in recovery for 32 years, which was 2 years before Celebrate Recovery started.
Yeah.
And so if I was to just have a Celebrate Recovery sponsor, that meant I would have to fire the sponsor I have, who is a good godly man who has given me great direction over the years just because he wasn't in Celebrate Recovery. So I don't want to do that. And so like Rodney said, don't necessarily think of sponsor as, okay, that's somebody different from a mentor. That's what a sponsor
That's
is.
what it
Right.
is.
It's somebody who
Yeah,
sets the
totally.
pace. So in our church, I asked all the elders and staff guys, I said, we don't have enough sponsors. Would you guys be willing to be mentors
That's
if I
right.
sent people to you?
Yeah.
And they said, every one of them said yes.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, and just so we're clear, the definition of sponsor versus accountability partner. Sponsor, best practice of a sponsor is somebody who's been in recovery longer than you have, who's completed the steps and principles, who can help you walk through some of those landmines, especially early in recovery. Accountability partners are people who are maybe ahead of you, maybe even behind you, or at the same time that you've been in recovery, and those are people that you want to call and check in on. So I always suggest one sponsor and as many accountability partners as possible.
Yes.
Because what we want to do is we want to make sure that the sponsor-sponsee relationship doesn't become codependent.
Yeah.
I've just heard too many times where people say, my sponsor told me to do this, so I have to do it.
gospel.
Sometimes, yeah, your sponsor gave you great advice, you should go do that thing. Sometimes, though, it's not great advice. And the other thing I always think is, if your sponsor is not available, whether it's, late at night or they're sick or they just don't answer the phone because they're in their meeting. If you think, well, I'm going to act out with my issue unless my sponsor answers the phone, and they don't answer the phone, you're in trouble. So what I often do is if I'm tempted to do something, I'll call my sponsor, but then if I do talk to him or if I don't, I'm going to call through until I get somebody to answer me. Because about 3 or 4 calls in, the temptation to do something is pretty much passed by then. Unless they have had to leave 3 or 4 voicemails, hey, I'm thinking I want to go drink, call me back.
Yeah.
Now I'm going, if I do go drink, I've got to make these calls and tell 4 or 5 people that I went out, right?
Yeah.
And so, so I think having a lot of people around you to help hold you up is really, really important.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, some people that are my accountability partners know they are because they're in the program. Others are just my friends. They may have
Right.
never walked into Celebrate Recovery before,
Right.
but they know my struggles.
Yeah.
They know what I want, and they're there to support me when I'm weak.
You know that you said a great thing about voicemails. When you do call somebody and they don't answer, leave a voicemail that goes something like this. I'm being tempted right now. I want you to ask me tomorrow how I did.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
so that automatically is a layer of accountability
Right.
that I'm going to have to answer to this
Yeah,
person
exactly.
tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
And I think it's important too, as you were talking, Johnny, just thinking about the making sure you don't, if I'm struggling with substance abuse, making sure you don't have someone their main area of recovery is codependency. You know, have somebody that understands if you can. You know, it's not always possible early
Right.
on, but try to find someone with like issues so that they can say, I know the mind games, I know the tricks I played with my addictions or anger or whatever, and manipulation or whatever, and I want somebody that can call me out on that.
Yeah.
So if
And
you can.
that's such a good point. As you grow your ministry, and I don't even necessarily mean size, but as you've been going for a while, you can begin to add layers to things. When you first start, like when we first started Celebrate Recovery in '91, Pastor John will always say that there are 2 requirements to be a leader. You had to have at least heard of the 12 steps, and you had to have a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Like that was it. Now, if you want to be a leader here at Saddleback, it's a process. You
Yes.
got to go through
Right.
training. You got to complete a step study. You got to be, a member of our church. There's a lot of different things. Sometimes people go, "Man, it's too hard to be a leader at Saddleback." I go,
Yeah.
"Yes,
Yeah.
because we've been going for a long time. We want high standards. When you're first started, though, that's going to be different. And same thing with sponsors. Same things with so many of these things. And so that's why it's so important, and why we always talk about the importance of attending trainings when possible, a summit or the one-day training conference, and no matter what, if you're a ministry leader, contact your state representative. It's a volunteer in your area who wants to help you start and grow your Celebrate Recovery, and they're also going to give you tips on how to keep that Celebrate Recovery safe. So you can find their information at celebraterecovery.com, and there's a section called Find My State Rep. You can find their information, contact them. They would love to help you. They're going to do it for free, and they're going to really help you be a big voice into your starting your Celebrate Recovery, really helping you as you go down that road.
So good.
Well, guys, that was the quickest half hour we've done.
Wow.
On this. And I know that I would love to do this the rest of the night. And I think that a lot of people watching would feel that way as well. Because I know that a lot of people ask questions and we didn't get to them. So what we'll do is we'll save those questions for next week. And as we begin, as we're kind of waiting for new questions to come in, we'll go back and answer some of those if we can. And guys, thanks so much for being here.
Good to see you.
What a fun night. What a fun thing to do. And we're really excited about some things coming up in 2020. Things like trying to get these videos onto our YouTube channel, some podcast ideas and some YouTube ideas over there as well as our one-day training conferences and summits. So a lot of stuff going on. Anybody else want to say anything as we close our time?
Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Christmas.
Oh, no.
Jenny, you